This video deals with the initial deployment. So something has happened, okay, whatever scenario. It's an invasion, a coup, societal collapse. Something has occurred that the unit has determined they need to deploy. They are mobilizing. They're going to the field. Now, we're not going in with family members in this scenario. This is just going to be deploying as the unit, the members of your militia. Now, when you go in, obviously you're going to have the minimums that the unit requires. Examples here, we have cover three main areas: food, medical, and ammunition. Now, every unit's going to be different, but I just threw this together as an example. Let's say this particular unit we're looking at, and we'll go back to the old Green Mountain Militia, that I had used on the base camp videos. Let's say in that unit they required everyone had to have a minimum of 3 MREs a person. For medical supplies, they had to have a fully stocked IFAK and a minimum of 210 rounds for your weapons, so 730 round magazines. Now that's what they considered the minimum. That's what was required. But when you go to the field, you're deploying initially, you want to go in heavy. You want to take extra, especially your expendables. Now, it wouldn't hurt also, I don't have one on here, if you had the capabilities, maybe bring in a couple 5-gallon water cans, 5-gallon military plastic water jugs. Plastic because they make a lot less noise than the metal ones when they would bump into a tree or whatever as you're moving along. Now, for deploying in heavy, you carry as much extra food, medical supplies, and ammunition as you can on you or haul with you on a game cart, on a modified bike like the Viet Cong did, on an Accio sled or some other type of sled, or on a vehicle. But whatever you carry must not seriously impede your movement. It must not slow you down to the point where you're going from a walking pace to a baby crawl. So keep that in mind. You don't want to carry so much that you're just barely moving, because then that's going to just make it easier for you to get caught for whatever force you're trying to get away from to catch up to you and take you out. So there's going to be that little give and take. Find out how much you can handle, how much you can bring with you. Now, I do recommend, if you have extra room inside your rucksacks, your assault packs and that stuff, pack as much of the expendable items in there that you can now. And consider that when you get deployed, you'd bring additional along on like those game carts or whatever that you can muster. So, we have here our minimum that's required. And we determined we got some extra room in our rucksack. We have our bags packed, everything's ready to go, but we still got some extra space. Maybe we're also packing some lighter stuff inside our cargo pockets. Maybe we're carrying, we can take along some extra spare bandoliers. So first off, we decide we want food. Well, your main thing you should pack would obviously be stuff that's lighter, that you can pack more of. So we start throwing in as much freeze-dried foods as we possibly can. Whatever we got room for. Maybe we find we got some extra room yet, or as we're packing it in, we find that we have that space in there that's better filled by something else. So we determine we're going to toss in some rice. We found that we got some room inside the butt pack, so we determined we're going to bring along some canned goods. Whatever stuff we can bring. Whatever we can get a hold of, whatever we can bring with us. Whatever fits in there, and whatever you can handle. Now, you You also know that you should have extra medical supplies because your IFAC isn't going to last you past maybe one injury in a firefight. Remember, a lot of weapons are automatic weapons. Maybe not full automatic, it may be a 3-round burst automatic, so you may not be hit just once. Add to that you might have a through and through. It enters one side, blows out the other, so you're going to need additional medical supplies. So we fill in some additional space with some extra dressings. Whatever we can get a hold of, toss in there. Now let's say we decide to have the extra bandolier, or we find there's room on the rucksack, we can toss on another ammo pouch. So then maybe we're tossing in 4 magazines. Or maybe it's just ammo. Maybe we attach a cord or a rope to this around the handle and stuff, and we sling it over our shoulder and carry it in. And then add to that whatever you can carry on a cart. And well, on the cart you should think about boxes of stuff. I like the idea of totes. The plastic totes, the good ones. Not just the cheap ones. Ones that hopefully won't break that easily when you're going into the field. Bring those on your carts, and then the stuff that's on there gets cached. Any excess supplies that you bring with that will slow you down in operations can and should be put in operational caches to be drawn from during missions to resupply what is on you, what you use. An operational cache is a temporary one. It's one that you set up to support your operations in that particular zone, that particular area at that time. So let's go back to the Green Mountain Militia. They're rotating. They're sending a platoon out to a particular location in their AO, their area of operations. And they're going to be operating in there a week to 2 weeks, whatever it is. Well, maybe they're going out with a little bit of extra with them. They have it inside totes, inside cache tubes, whatever. They bring that along and they put in a temporary cache that they're going to use during that time that they're in that AO. Now, is it possible operational cache turns into more long-term? Of course it is. So even when you're putting in those operational ones, you're trying to camouflage it and set it up the best you can. In case it does turn into you don't come back to it for 6 months, a year, or more. Now, any established caches you already have, you should only open those and draw from them when absolutely needed. Especially with food. Food caches, I really would try to hold off with opening those up till you get close to winter. Because during warm weather months, you're going to be able to supply yourself a little bit off of your wild animals, your game, your fish. Once you get into winter months, especially deep winter months, it's going to be a lot harder to find that stuff. And it's possible that the enemy may not be operating as much. So then you're not going to be capturing as many supplies. You should always take as much as you can off the enemy from their troops, their convoys. Things that you buy from their troops, because there's always going to be people trying to make an extra buck on the black market. And also things that you can steal from enemy bases. You don't necessarily have to attack the base all the time. Sometimes you can just slip in the wire, get in there, steal stuff, and then slip back out without them noticing. That's a good thing too. That's something to think about. That's how you're exploiting an enemy base to your advantage. The Viet Cong did that a lot. Sneaking onto US bases inside tunnels through the wire or whatever. And then they would steal whatever they needed and got it out of there without the US or the South Vietnamese or the Koreans or the Australians knowing it had happened. So Now, one thing that I heard the Michigan militia does, or some militias at least do, I heard this primarily as a thing mentioned with the Michigan militia though. They try to get a hold of, whenever they can get this stuff for free, the little golf bag carts. The ones that, you know, the lazy people carry around their golf bags, their golf clubs on when they go around the golf course. They take those, they don't leave the bag on there, but that cart is able to hold a case of MREs and maybe a small can of ammo. You just strap it on there good, and when you get out to the field, you use the stuff up, and you're not really losing anything when you get rid of the cart. You got it for free. Who cares? Another thing they look for is the rolling luggage, I heard. Your rolling suitcases. For the people too lazy to carry their stuff in the airport, they got the stuff that's on rollers. If you can get a hold of those for free, that might be something also. Take that suitcase, you know, give it a shot of spray paint. If it's a color that's not going to blend in, who cares if the material gets messed up? And then you open up the suitcase and you fill it full of as much stuff as it'll hold. Especially rations. That should be a major thing you should always think about, is rations. So hopefully I give you some food for thought. Now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot and militia movements, always remember, essayons.